Your knowledge of contract language is imperative.
You must know what a violation looks like if you wish to be active in its cessation.
It is important to understand that being active and knowledgeable affects your overall bargaining strength.
Together, we can forge a more militant NALC.
Good morning and welcome back to Parcels of Knowledge, the podcast dedicated to delivering knowledge to the city letter carrier. With your host, the Roseville Wrecking Ball, recording from the beautiful city of Roseville, Michigan. Currently on grievance number 424 of the year. Belays it. Branch 4374. Today is nominations, so you can see me there at the branch in Centerline on 10 Mile. It is at the general membership that starts at 7:30 p.m. Come on over. We can have a conversation if you have any questions, and you can show up just to support me if you'd like. But on another note, I said I wouldn't get political, but here I am. Tune out if you'd like, but I'm going to talk bad about some of the people that are in charge, and I'm just angry. I've held my tongue on this issue for far too long. I've thought about doing an episode, but here I am, I'm finally here. You know, a union exists for one primary reason: to be our defense when our employer fails us. We know the Postal Service will always put its interests first, and we accept that. But I'm forced to ask a question that has been weighing on me for a long time. Who defends us when our own union fails? I'm not speaking in hypotheticals. I have a case right in front of me that shows deep, systematic problems within the NALC. And this isn't meant as an attack, but it's a plea for constructive change. The people we trust to fight for us are falling short. We need to talk about why and how we're going to fix it to prevent this from happening in the future. I'll start with the fact that I have a carrier who was placed on EP in December of 2024. I'm not going into the particulars, but I can say this. They are innocent of what they are accused of, and management had no information whatsoever to show they did anything wrong. I filed a grievance, and I proved my burden very easily, but still was denied the first case. I asked for all information relied upon to place them on EP, and management had nothing that would connect the grievant to any sort of wrongdoing. If someone gets into a car accident and gets placed on EP, it makes sense because they know who is in the driver's seat. In this particular case, which does not involve a car accident, they have no idea who was in the seat or if the issue happened at all. Absolutely nothing that connected the grievant to the issue at hand. Step E ruled that management need no just cause to issue an EP only to keep her on EP. This is wrong, and they were wrong for doing that. Moving on, I contacted the NBA's office because reasonably, I was considerably angry. If a car gets stolen from the parking lot, management can't just issue a random person EP because they are trying to figure out who did it. This is just a comparison. This is not what actually happened. As I said before, I'm not going into the particulars. But as Mr. Walton has proclaimed, if there are any doubts, the doubts should most definitely go in favor of the accused. We are not here to prove their innocence. Management must prove their guilt. They have to have some sort of just cause. I talked to an RAA who told me that it was a correct decision, that they don't have to have just cause to issue an EP. Both in the case file and on the phone call, I referenced the fact that they do, but it is a different version of just cause, especially for misconduct. I pointed out that Article 16 states this. In Article 16.7, there is a reference to a Mittenthal decision, and it reads in relevant part, what test must management satisfy? Usually employees are placed on emergency non-duty status for alleged misconduct. The test that management must satisfy to justify actions taken under Article 16.7 depends upon the nature of the emergency. National Arbitrator Mittenthal wrote as follows, my response to this disagreement depends in large part upon how Section 7 emergency action is characterized. If the action is discipline for alleged misconduct, then management subject to a just cause test. To quote from Section 1, no employee may be disciplined except for just cause. If, on the other hand, the action is not prompted by misconduct and hence is not discipline, the just cause standard is not applicable. Management then need only show reasonable cause or reasonable belief, a test which is easier to satisfy. One important caveat should be noted: just cause is not an absolute concept. Its impact from the standpoint of the degree of proof required in a given case can be somewhat elastic. For instance, arbitrators ordinarily use a preponderance of the evidence rule or some similar standard in deciding fact questions in a discipline dispute. Sometimes, however, a higher degree of proof is required where the alleged misconduct includes an element of moral turpitude or criminal intent. The point is that just cause can be calibrated differently on the basis of the nature of the alleged misconduct. To this RAA, I love you. I really do. I know you're intelligent, but I'm calling you out, and you're wrong this time. You told me that I was reading that citation wrong. It only applies to keeping carriers on EP. Well, it clearly states taking Article 16.7 action. That is, in its placement, not its continuance. This is inappropriate. If you read the entire document, C-10146, it supports my accusation. It was a case involving the placement of emergency placement, not the continuance. Read it for yourself. Right in his findings and discussion, he states 3 distinct issues are raised by these grievances. The first concerns the nature of management's action under Article 16.7, namely, whether placement of an employee on a non-duty, non-pay status through this emergency procedure constitutes as discipline. The second concerns the level of proof necessary to validate management's actions in invoking 16.7, namely, whether it must show just cause or whether a mere showing of reasonable cause or reasonable belief will suffice. There wasn't even reasonable belief in the case in Roseville. But he ruled that there's a level of just cause for misconduct. It just doesn't meet the same credentials as regular discipline. Tell me why I'm reading it wrong when I can find the full citation and find out that I'm not. I don't understand it. Why you're so confident about that? I assume you have the best intentions, but intentions do not get brothers and sisters their jobs back. We need to be correct when we make assertions. We need to be better. I did what we're all told to do. I trusted the process. So I filed a second grievance, not for the placement of EP, but rather the continuance, as my RAA and Step B were talking about. For an accusation the post office has zero evidence to support. The original Step B settlement contained a peculiar clarification. It spoke on the fact that we had the right to file a grievance for the continuance of their EP after they return to work or are issued discipline. This angered me further and got me to schedule an appointment with the Step B reps and ask for clarification. I asked them, does this mean you are limiting our ability to grieve this as long as she remains on an unpaid status? And they said no, that was not the intent, that they had no intent of limiting my ability to file for the continuance of the EP. So, of course, I called the MBA's office to get them to amend the decision. That way it didn't hurt us for the second grievance when I filed for the continuance. They refused. After a long fight, we finally got the second grievance impasse to arbitration. The entire time, for the second grievance, management's only argument was, you've guessed it, because it was prematurely filed because of the prior Step B decisions ruling that we would have to wait until they were returned to work or issued discipline. I know this is a major assumption here, but I'm pretty sure, based on this information, the Step B rep must have let management write the damn thing. And that was their intent. It was just a hidden intent. This is unacceptable as well. This whole process, I speak to the MBA's office, which bends their chain of command rule. And sometimes they allow that, but they usually remind me that I am to have the branch president talk to them, not me. This leaves us in the dark as stewards of record. I understand that if every member of a region can have full access to the NBA's phone lines, they would be flooded. But not everyone has a good reputation with their president. I do, but still, I feel this process is unfair. If someone is a steward of record, they will be the most invested in that case, so of course they might check in on what part of the process it may be. Regardless, our hearing was scheduled for July. It was canceled by the arbitrator on the very same day, last minute. Then we were told it was possible that they would put on the October schedule. They were not. Then what set me off most recently is once again they aren't even on the schedule for November. How many damn EPs do you have in this region? I thought EPs and removals were supposed to go to the front. So how is an EP from December of 2024 still not on the schedule for November of 2025? This means a dedicated, hard-working employee will be without a job and without a paycheck for over a year. All for something they did not do. Are you not angry? I am just shaking with rage just thinking about it. We are forced to navigate a chain of command so convoluted it feels designed to keep us in the dark. The NBA's office does, however, sometimes allow us to go outside the chain of command, but the system we have is ridiculous. If you have anything to do with the grievance procedure, you should be able to communicate with the NBA's office freely. It shouldn't take a branch president to check on the status of where an arbitration is. A steward should suffice, especially the steward of record for that case. We are watching a system that allows a person's livelihood to be stolen without cause, without proof, and without a clear path to justice. This isn't just broken, it's an insult to our dignity. Let this be a lesson to all of us. Our system has failed us. Our leadership has failed us. And right now, one of our own is paying the price for it. And it's not the only time. Stories like this happen all the time. Even the NBA's office told me, oh yeah, well we had this person out for 2 years, we had another person out for 1. Why? Why is it something that's reoccurring? When that happened before, why didn't you make sure it doesn't happen again? There has to be something we can do. There really does. Now I have a brother that wanted to say something about this issue because it happens to be an issue that he had to deal with as well. I'll let him speak, and then I'll see you on the other side for a conclusion.
My name is Terry Lockett. I'm based out of Holland, Michigan. I've been a carrier for almost 21 years. I started in Brookville, Wisconsin. Within the first 9 months of starting there, I became a steward. And the reason I became a steward is because one of the best stewards over there, by the name of Greg Stentz, said to be able to protect yourself, unlike anybody else, you need to know your contract. And he tossed me a book, which at that time was our national contract, and I read it back and forth. From there, I transferred to Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I tried to stay low. But again, I was appointed by another great president, Gary Smith, who understood my background and asked me to take over an office. I did. From there, I transferred to Holland, Michigan. Within the first, I say 6 months, I became a steward. In 2020, that election, I was voted in as president. In 2022, right around there, I stepped back and just started working within the office as far as transforming and furthering our status. Ever since, I continue to help my brothers and sisters excel in the knowledge of being stewards and fighting for themselves and holding our branch presidents, stewards, NBA offices, and above accountable. I believe we need to make a change. The status quo should not stand no more, because we need somebody in positions to fight for our members the way we will fight for our children and our other family members. We are all one, and we should be fighting as one.
Amen.
So, hello, Region 6. We having a lot of misfortunes with our MBA office. I feel, my personal feeling is that our MBA office has become too complacent in where they're at. They're leading with their status quo agendas and what they believe. I believe they're fearful for a battle that we are all engaging in. This 16.7 that we're dealing with, as far as Article 16.7, management has weaponized it against us. They have used it as a factor to undermine and demoralize our members, our brothers and sisters. This 16.7 that when management places us on is more than what it should be dealt as. Doug Tolino in 2009 put out a report with NAPS to say that to be put off the clock for unjust situations is not the way to go, in his own words. It was a report that he did in 2009. It was US versus I can't think of it off the top of my head again, but it was a report that he put out there in his own words saying it should not be utilized the way that they're utilizing it now. And unfortunately, our MBA office is complacent, compromised with the same type of steps and allowing them to do it. These 16.7s that our members are being put off the clock for are not only breaking their backs, they're breaking their bankrolls and putting our members in depressed attitudes. All right. When these members finally get put back on the clock, they're not only getting a little bit of their payback, but they got to pay for their medical that the post office been paying for. So the financial gain that might be there is not actually there. Our MBA office, again, I say, is compromised and complacent because their attitude towards their members are no longer, in my feeling, protecting their members. They're leaving them in a hanging situation. There's no reason that any of our members should be off the clock.
Would you say that maybe they don't have the same urgency that the carriers who are on EP would feel that they should?
I don't believe they do. When you look at the tables that we have, right? Half the table 2 chart, they don't make nowhere close than what these MBA officers are doing, right? If you look at some of our MBA offices, what are they payrolls? 130, 130,000 a year, right? Because they've been sitting there where we got carriers making less than 45 grand a year, right? And this is before taxes. And most of these younger carriers do not have a significant other, right? So they're making 45. MBA offices are making, if you tally their paychecks together, we got one RAA who's married literally to management, right? So they're clocking, what, 260 at the bare minimum, and somebody clocking 45 and they get put off the clock. How do they pay their bills, right? They go in a deeper hole. So this is bigger than what they're...
So you're suggesting that they lose their connection to the workroom floor, the way it feels to be in that situation.
They've been...
Is that incorrect?
Misplaced. No, I think you're absolutely correct. They're being misplaced to why they was put there. They're misconnected. You're right, with what's on the workroom floor. They should be listening to the members on the workroom floor. 16.7 is there. All right, correct. It's there. If they put somebody off the clock, they got a time limit to put them back on, right? Most arbitrators say maybe 2 weeks, and you can be put back on. Doug Tolino pretty much said the same thing. They should not be out for an extended amount of time without knowing why they're out, right? They should not be caught up in the system that keep rotating back and forth to keep these carriers off the clock, right? Right now, you got so many carriers working paycheck to paycheck, even in the overtime status, working paycheck to keep up with this inflation and their bills and the rents and the mortgages, right? It's hurting our carriers. There's no reason they should be out there that long. And for the NBA office to pretty much say, hurry up and wait, kind of like a military status, our brothers and sisters can't hurry up and wait. They're hurting, right?
Absolutely.
So we, as members, need to hold the NBA office accountable for these things, right? Not just the selective few that are able to talk to them, because the NBA office like to say, use your chain of command. If anybody called them, you most likely heard that if you wasn't a president, right? But if you do not have a good rapport with your president and they saying use your chain of command, what good is that? Certain members
Absolutely.
might need the NBA office to talk to their president so they can continue that chain of command for that continued respect. All right. Too many of us are battling from within to say table 1 versus table 2. I think we're all on the same charts as far as membership. All right. I think that every member has the same value as every member. Okay. And that's how our union is based, that we're all should be equal. But it does not feel that way to some of our brothers and sisters towards the NBA. They're not treated as equal. All right. In some aspects, some of them just feel like they're just an NBA paycheck because we just tossing money to them. Right. That's why we need a change in our NBA office so that the people looking for that change can have it. We need more members to stick up for our younger members. We need more members to hold the older members accountable, because these 16-7 issues that we're having, not only in our region, but throughout the country, that management are putting carriers off the clock for nonsensical things just because they can feel like they can, is nonsense. And the NBA office should be helping a little bit more attack these issues that we're having within our region and the nation.
As you've just heard, it is not something that a lone carrier in Roseville is fighting right now with her steward alongside her. This is something that is systematic and has been happening for a long time. Why? Why? I just don't fucking understand it. Why do we allow this process? I don't care what you do. I don't care who's in that chair. Whoever's in control of this shit should not allow due process to be delayed at this fashion. It's stupid. To my brothers and sisters in this office, we cannot let her fight this alone. Show up. Offer your support. Let them know we have their back. To the NBA's office, to Region 6, and if this isn't a regional failure, but rather a national issue, which I assume it is, to the national NALC as well, we are here, and we are watching. This is not an isolated incident. This is a pattern of failure that is unacceptable. When will you ensure the basic human dignity of due process in a timely fashion? We don't want excuses. We want solutions. If you need more advocates, get them. If you need more arbitrators, find them. If you need to change the way that the system works, do it. There's no reason why people should have to wait over a year for their own due process. We pay you enough to be adaptive to caseloads. I don't want to hear that you're backed up. Your purpose is defend us, and right now we are defenseless. This can happen to any one of us tomorrow. I'm not saying our current regional administration's to blame. I don't care who is in the chair. What I want is for this to change. We need a system that doesn't allow for management's intimidation by emergency placement to be so fucking effective. This is not just her fight. It's a warning to all of us. If it can happen to her, it can happen to you. I hope you learned something valuable today. And as always, have a good day.
Shout out to the Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God. We need Article 8 scholars right now. The Grievous Genius and the Roseville Wrecking Ball doing amazing work.
Brothers and sisters, this guy is good, man. He's fucking good.
And my boy Joshua, he killed it. Man, he's lockstep right now. He's killing it.
You would think this guy has been around for 30 fucking years. That's how good he is. Yeah, it's like he wrote the contract.